morning. Thank you so much. First things first, my thanks and my love to my 37-year, well, she's not 37 years old, my bride of 37 years, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here, for showing your support for Israel. AIPAC, you run an incredible conference, and I'm so honored to be here among Jews and non-Jews, religious and secular, Democrats and Republicans, who all hold lots of heartfelt, albeit divergent views, but who all unite in their steadfast commitment and support for Israel, and the unique and essential role of the United States in giving effect to that support. What an honor it is to address you this morning, to share this podium with such distinguished friends of Israel as House Majority Whip Steve Scalise and Senators Bob Menendez, Mitch McConnell, Marco Rubio, and Chris Coons. It's a great honor. And of course, the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. This is my first opportunity to speak to you as the United States Ambassador to Israel. It was a little less than a year ago that I took the oath of my office administered by Vice President Pence. And I'm so proud of what the Trump administration has accomplished this past year with regard to Israel. It was, to put it mildly, a year of firsts. We began last May as the White House, for the first time, hosted its celebration of Israel Independence Day, of Yom HaAtzmaut, on the 69th anniversary of Israel's birth. A few weeks later, I became the first United States ambassador to Israel to attend Israel's celebration of Yom Yerushalayim, the 50th anniversary of the day that Israel recaptured the Western Wall. Just the next day, President Trump became the first sitting president in American history to visit the Kotel Hamaravi, to visit the Western Wall. And by December of last year, we were, of course, an even greater historic territory when President Trump declared Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And just 10 days ago, the State Department gave practical effect to the President's Jerusalem Declaration and announcing that the new United States Embassy would be opened in May of this year, just a couple of months from now, and coinciding with Israel's 70th anniversary. In beautiful Arnona, Jerusalem. 70 years from Truman to Trump. How blessed we are to be here today. Now, the events that I just noted are not just symbolic. They represent a fundamental shift, a sea change, if you will, in the way America relates to its closest ally in the Middle East, the State of Israel. Now, we all must acknowledge that the relationship between the United States and Israel has always been special, and it has always transcended politics, and it must continue to always transcend politics. But I know you will forgive my pride if I do say that I think things are better than ever. I'm asked all the time, what have I learned from my position? Now, the full answer lies in a book, not in a speech. But permit me to share with you one of the many takeaways I've gleaned from my first year in office. As I said, it's one of many revelations, but I hope that it resonates with you. It relates to a phrase that I hear occasionally from some American visitors, students, and even some politicians. When I ask them to sum up their feelings for the Holy Land, they respond to me that they are, quote, pro-Israel and pro-peace, close quote. Pro-Israel and pro-peace sounds like a completely reasonable position. My friends, it is not. Using that phrase plainly implies that there are people who are pro-Israel and anti-peace, or even, God forbid, pro-Israel and pro-war. Having served in the country of Israel now for almost a year, I can attest that such people, in anything but the smallest, most minute of numbers, simply do not exist. Pro-Israel and pro-peace is nothing more than a redundancy. If you support Israel, then you must, by definition, support it living in peace with its neighbors. Peace is a core Israeli value. It is a core American value. It is the ultimate line of the priestly benediction that Kohanim, of which I am one, bestow upon their congregations each and every day in the land of Israel. Yisa Hashem panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May the Lord lift his divine presence unto you and grant you peace. It is no less than blasphemous to suggest that any Jew or any Christian is against peace. And that's just not a matter of religious belief. Spend a day at the cemetery on Mount Herzl, the equivalent of Arlington National Cemetery here in Virginia. Ask a mother grieving for her son what she is praying for, and she will tell you peace. Ask an Israeli hotel owner or a tour operator what they wish for. They will tell you peace. Ask a member of the Knesset whether they would prefer to spend more money on education or hospitals rather than such a disproportionate amount on national defense. And they will tell you, of course they would, if they only had peace. Ask a family living on the Gaza periphery if they would rather have their government create a high-speed rail service to Tel Aviv rather than buying more and more Iron Dome batteries. And they would say, we'd love that if we only had peace. Ask each and every parent of a son or a daughter entering the IDF what they pray for. And even those who do not believe in God seem to turn to prayer at this time, and they will tell you they pray for peace. Everyone living in Israel wants peace, yearns for peace, and prays for peace. And it is dangerously misleading to use phrases that suggest otherwise. If there is no peace in the Middle East as we speak, and regrettably, there is not, I strongly suggest that we blame someone other than Israel for this predicament. Now, not everyone agrees on the best way to promote peace. As you know, there are good faith differences of opinion. What should Israel's policy be in the West Bank? Bordered by enemies to the north and west, threatened by Iran, with no margin of error? What risks can Israel afford to take in peace negotiations? Should more money be spent on coexistence rather than separation? Should economic empowerment precede political autonomy? These are all good questions about which reasonable minds can differ, and reasonable minds do differ. Boy, do they differ. But no minds differ on the need or the desire for peace, or indeed the blessing that peace will bring, nor do any minds differ on the sanctity and the preciousness of every human life, of every race or religion. If you are pro-Israel, these are your values. You don't need any additional suffix to emphasize the point. The entire Trump administration is committed to peace, from the president to the vice president, to Jared Kushner, to Jason Greenblatt, to me, all assigned to the sacred task. And we're hard at work, and we're working on a plan, not the plan that's been described 20 different ways by 20 different sources, all, you'll pardon the expression, fake news. But a real plan for peace, and we're not giving up. Now, those of us who serve the president, we all come to Washington, or to our foreign posts, in my case and others, with different beliefs, different backgrounds, and even different political views. The greatness of our civilian government is our ability to draw from the diversity of those views and recast our differences as strength. The Latin phrase that you're all familiar with, e pluribus unum, from many comes one, this is our national motto. And as an American who has supported Israel his entire life, I took great care when I took this job as a Jewish ambassador to the Jewish state to identify the specific American interests that were at stake. I want to share with you my thinking, and I hope it helps people here crystallize their thoughts on this important subject. The American interests that are fostered in advance when we support Israel are simply vast. We can always start with naked self-interest. Israel is a major trading partner with the United States, and its innovations and technologies improve our lives in many ways. You're all seeing some of those innovations at this conference. Israel is the world leader in cyber defense, the ever-increasing threat of our generation, and it shares its discoveries and approaches with us in a manner unlike its relationship with any other nation. And because of the extraordinary military and intelligence coordination between Israel and the United States, Israel keeps us safe, just as we help to keep Israel safe in return. Naked self-interest is sometimes more than enough to justify a foreign policy. But our relationship with Israel is deeper and far more profound. It goes all the way back to the pilgrim, John Winthrop, who stood on the deck of his ship about to enter Massachusetts Bay, and he charged his flock with the wish that the God of Israel would be with them. Since that date in the 17th century, many American thought leaders saw themselves as building the new Israel, which explains in part why so many American villages bear the name of biblical communities from the Holy Land. More than 100 years before the State of Israel was born, the United States opened up a consulate in the city of Jerusalem. And in 1948, President Harry Truman caused America to be the first nation to recognize the rebirth of this ancient civilization we call Israel. Now, in the United States, we establish no religion. That is a core constitutional principle ingrained in our First Amendment and the bedrock of our democracy. And yet, we are most certainly a nation under God, and virtually every government edifice proclaims, "In God we trust." Our support for Israel derives from our shared values, values instilled in us from ancient texts of freedom, democracy, independence, and the sanctity of life. And of course, from the covenant that God made to Abraham, the father of all three great monotheistic religions, that he will bless those who bless Israel. To millions of people in our great country, as we sit and ponder the wonders of our republic, the almost magical transformations we have made over the 242 years of our history as one indivisible nation under God, we can't help but be convinced that America's steadfast support for Israel has had a profound effect on our good fortune. I am convinced that America is at its best when it supports Israel. So as I stand before you today, the evidence demonstrates now more than ever that support for Israel is a quintessential American value. I know my views are shared by the two members of the administration who preceded me at this conference last night, our amazing Vice President Mike Pence and our incredible UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. But as great as they are, and they are indeed great, and I thank you with all my heart for the kindness you showed them last night. As great as they are, we all take our directions from the greatest friend that Israel has ever had in the White House, President Trump. My friends, we owe him a tremendous debt of gratitude. It is the highest honor and privilege of my life to serve as the United States ambassador to Israel. When I'm referred to as ambassador, they use a capital A. But all of you are ambassadors as well, perhaps just with a lowercase a, if you will. As ambassadors, all of you share with me the responsibility for making the case for Israel, as many of you will today on Capitol Hill, and as you do in your homes, your communities, and on college campuses every day of the week, for which I am eternally grateful. When, as I know all of you will, you proclaim yourselves to be pro-Israel, please understand that those 1.5 simple words, without suffix and without apology, you are proclaiming yourselves pro-democracy, pro-religious freedom, and perhaps most importantly, pro-American. Later today, I'm heading back to Israel. We have work to do. We have an embassy to open in Jerusalem this May. We're working hard to get that done. Until we meet again, and I hope we meet again in Israel, please join with me in continuing to strengthen the unbreakable bond. I know that phrase is used a lot, but it's not trite. It really is an unbreakable bond between Israel and the United States. I'd like to conclude with the last sentence of the 29th Psalm, written by King David some 3,000 years ago. Hashem oz li'amo yitein, Hashem yivarech et amo b'shalom. May God give strength unto his people. May God bless his people with peace. My father, of blessed memory, a pulpit rabbi for some 50 years, ended every one of his Shabbat morning services with this passage. I often wondered what King David meant. If he was asking for peace, why did he first have to ask for strength? My friends, in this day and age, we all know the answer. We all know what King David, the great warrior poet, meant by his request. We will have peace, but first, we must be strong. May God bless you. May God bless Israel. May God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.